Hey y'all, Meredith here with Peak Performance, and today we are talking about one of my favorite stretches, which is a stretch into hip external rotation. This is especially important for runners, as most of us tend to kind of drop into that internal rotation while we run because those internal rotators are so tight in our hip. So in general, we want to try and think about keeping that knee out. So this is a stretch that you can do before and after a run. We'll talk a little bit about the differences and how you would approach it if you were doing it before a run versus after. And we'll talk a little bit about a few different variations of this that you can do depending on where you're at. So to start off, I like using any kind of like box or a table that's about waist height or a little bit lower. So what we're gonna do here is whichever hip you're gonna stretch, we're gonna take that foot, lay it up on the box, scoot a little bit closer, and then you're gonna try and make that lower leg nice and parallel on the box while avoiding dropping your hip down, okay? We wanna keep your hips nice and level. So for me, you can see I'm a little bit tight. I feel a really good stretch in the outside of my hip. I tend to be pretty tight here in general. So if you were doing this stretch before a run, what we want to do is we want to hold this for about 30 seconds or so. We don't want to do really, really long stretches, okay? Because that can actually increase our risk of injury. So we're going to hold this stretch for 30 seconds, and at the end of that 30 seconds, as always, we want to activate the muscles on each side of the joint. So say my 30 seconds is up. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to push my foot down into the box like I'm trying to rotate back towards that neutral position. I'm gonna hold it for about 10 seconds, and then I'm gonna switch and immediately try and pull my foot up off of the box like I'm trying to pull myself further into the stretch. If you're one of those people that is super, super mobile, and you're not feeling a stretch just getting into this position, A, check your hips, make sure that you're not dipping, and then B, if you're not feeling it yet, can flex forward a little bit, and that changes that angle a little bit. It can make the stretch more intense. Some people may be able to fold all the way over just because they're super, super mobile, but you want to try and keep your back as straight as possible so we're not getting any extra strain here, and that way we're really isolating that hip. So again, if you're doing this before a run, we're going to hold the stretch for about 30 seconds and then push and pull. And what I would do is I would repeat that push and pull about 3 times on each direction. If you were doing this after a run and you're really trying to kind of gain mobility, I would hold this passive stretch for about 2 minutes. So with this, you want it to be a pretty gentle stretch if you're gonna hold that long. So nothing super intense. We never want any pain in the hip when you're stretching it. It should just be that pulling, stretching feeling. And then at the end of that, you're also gonna push and pull. And if you want to, if you really feel like it's a tight direction for you, you can, after doing the push and pull, you can try and go a little further into the stretch and then hold for another minute or so. But we always wanna end with that push and pull. That way we're teaching our body to control that new motion. If you don't have any kind of piece of furniture that you can do this on, say you're about to go out on a run, what you can do is you can sit down on a park bench. So, you know, lower this a little bit. So you can come and sit here, or if you're in the office and you're doing a little bit of stretching before getting up and moving around, same concept. So you're gonna rotate that leg across the other so that your ankle is just over that knee, and then you're gonna let that knee drop down, trying to keep your lower leg as parallel as you can to the floor. And then just kind of go until you feel that stretch. If you need to lean forward a little bit with this, that's fine. Okay. You can also do this on the ground. If you don't have anything to sit on, you can sit down on the ground, bend the other knee up a little bit, rotate across here, and then sit that hip down here. If you don't feel much of a stretch with that, try and straighten up, and typically you'll feel one there. If that doesn't work, if for some reason you hurt to get into that position, or if you feel like it's not intense enough, the other option is going into your pigeon pose, which is the most aggressive way to do this. So So with this, still rotating that leg, and then you're sitting your opposite leg back. Okay, so for me, I'm pretty tight. I can't really sink down into this any further without it being extremely uncomfortable. But you wanna try and think about keeping that leg nice and perpendicular to your body, okay? So you don't wanna be rotating off to the side or trying to come out of that stretch at all, okay? What you'll find is that you'll probably try and sink your foot back a little bit to come out of that rotation if you're really tight. So if that's the case, I would try and go with one of the earlier options that we talked about. So if you're having any kind of hip or knee pain when running, give us a call at Peak Performance. We'd love to help you get back to running pain-free.